Today we are going to create an audio-reactive video playback system using Max MSP. An audio-reactive playback system is very easy to implement, but it opens up so many creative possibilities. The idea is simple. We are going to take the amplitude of an audio sample and we are going to use that to drive the playback position of the video. But as we use different videos, as we add different kinds of effects on these videos, we will see that it's possible to do a lot of cool, creative audiovisual things by using this simple idea. So let's see how to implement this. Alright, let's start by defining what we exactly have to do in order to create an audio-reactive video playback system. Now, there are actually three things we have to do. Three simple things, but three things nonetheless. We need to be able to manually change the playback position of a video, right? So this can be through a number or a message, but I need to be able to scrub through a video based on some kind of manual input. This is important because we also need to, this is step 2, get the amplitude of an audio signal as a number, right? So we need to get the amplitude of an audio signal as a number, as a float or integer number. We don't want this as a signal because step 3, we want to eventually control the playback position of the video using this number, right? As long as we can turn any kind of information into a number, we can use it to map these values onto all different kinds of systems. So let's get the difficult part out of the way and let's start by manually changing the playback position of a video. Now for this, I'm going to set up a video playback environment and I'm going to use one of my favorite jitter objects, jit.world. This will be my context. This will create the window in which I'm going to see my video and visuals, right? I can give this jit.world a name as an argument. Let's call it, I don't know, video time, because it is in fact time for video. And I can give it some useful attributes, right? So I can set floating1 at floating1. And once I click out of this object, bam, we have our nice window called video time. It's just floating on top of the Max MSP patch, so we can just view immediately the results of what we are going to be working on. Now, I also want to toggle this jit.world on, so I will connect a toggle. This is jit.world, lock the patch, turn the toggle on, and now it's technically running, even though it's gray. It is still processing some kind of information inside this window. But of course, this is just something for us to view the video, right? We also need to actually play back some kind of video. And an easy way to do this in Jitter is to use the jit.movie object. Right, so on its own, jit.movie is not going to do too much. We have to load a video file into jit.movie, but eventually the video information will come out of its leftmost outlets. Now this I will connect to jit.world, and you can already see there's this kind of black rectangle or square, depending on the aspect ratio, appearing, and this is because there is no video playing yet. Now, which videos are we going to use? Well, I downloaded a bunch of cool time-lapse videos. I'm going to be linking some free resources to find these kinds of videos, but in essence, you can use any kind of video file you want as long as it is in the same folder as your Max patch. That is the only condition for doing what I'm about to do. In my case, I have timelapse1.mp4, timelapse2.mp4, 3 and 4.mp4. So to load this into jit.movie, I just need to create a message that says read space and then name of the movie file that is in the same folder as my Max patch, right? So timelapse1.mp4. Connect this message box to jit.movie, lock the patch, click on the message box, and there we go. You have a nice time lapse of this nice view from day to night or night into even more nights. Pretty beautiful. And we can even quickly look at the other time-lapse videos as well, right? So we don't have to use time-lapse videos, right? The point is they work really well for what we are going to do. So I prefer to use time-lapse videos. The clouds are really cool. I'm a big fan of mushrooms growing very slowly and then being sped up. You get some of these nice, organic visuals, let's say. Or we can use a classic, a flower slowly blooming. Now, the thing is, well, these videos are just playing on their own, right? And I want to control their playback status, their playback position manually. So I'm going to be adding a few attributes to JIT.movie. The first attribute is called auto start, and I will set this to 0 because I don't want my video to just immediately start when I load it. And second, I will set also loop, so at loop. I'm going to set the loop attribute to 0 because I do not want my videos to loop. And if I initiate my JIT.movie object like this and then load a video, I'm only going to see the first frame. Now's the fun part. How do we control the playback head position using this system? It's pretty simple, really. We just have to send a single message or a single kind of message to JIT.movie. And that message is called position space $1. Now, you might know that in Max MSP, if you have a message box and in the message there is a $1 somewhere, you can always send a value to that message box, and that $1 will be replaced by whatever you send into the object, right? So I can send in 0, and then this message box will send position 0 to this. I can send the message 1, and it will send position 1 to JIT.movie, and as you can see, we're actually at the very end of our time-lapse video. That is because that is how the position message works, right? So we can send a value between 0 and 1, regardless of the length of the video. We can always send a message, position, and then a number between 0 and 1 to scrub through a video. 0 is the beginning, 1 is the ending of the video, and anything in between is, as always, anything in between. Now, this is really cool. I'm just manually holding and dragging my mouse. I'm kind of scrubbing through this video, which is really fun. Also with clouds, this is really fun. And we can do a lot of things with this, right? But in any case, we have completed the first step. We manually are able to change the playback position of a video, which is done. Okay, so before we get creative with this, let's do the second step, which is to get the amplitude of an audio signal as a number. Now, if we are going to be doing audio reactive videos on the basis of amplitudes, it helps that our sound sample or music or whatever has a lot of variety in terms of loudness and amplitudes, right? And an audio fragment I'm going to use here is called micro percussion. Let's see, it's a part of the Upshot package apparently, but in principle you can click and drag any kind of audio file into your unlocked Max MSP patch. When you do that, we are going to get this playlist tilde object, and this object is going to send out the audio signal containing the audio of whatever you want to play. In fact, we can hear it. We can listen to it using the EasyDAC tilde object. This EasyDAC tilde object, when it receives some kind of audio, and when we lock the patch and turn this on, we are going to hear the sound of the audio file. All right, it's very experimental. And this is actually perfect for the kind of audio reactive video system we are going for, but again, feel incredibly free to experiment with this as much as you want. So our question is though, how do we get the amplitude of this audio signal? And there are a few ways of doing this, as there usually is, but the most straightforward way, in my opinion, is to use the object called peak_amp tilde. Peak_amp tilde is going to give you the peak amplitude in an audio signal that you give to this object as an input in the very first inlet. The only thing you have to do is to give this object a little argument. I'm going to type in 33 as an argument, and this is going to mean that every 33 milliseconds, that is 1/1000 of a second, it's going to report the amplitude of the signal coming in. Why 33? Well, there are some reasons, but it's a nice number, and again, this is a number you can play around with if the result is not sufficient for what you are trying to do. In any case, once I have my peak_amp tilde object with the argument 33, I can simply plug in any kind of signal, and it is going to give me a float number, right? It's not going to give me a signal, it's going to give me a float number, and when I play this audio sample again, you can see how the number is changing. It's going up from 0, representing the peak amplitude of that audio signal, which is exactly what we want. And if you're already a master of Max MSP, you have probably noticed that, well, this number can very easily go here, right? We can actually use this number as the position. Actually, it's very intuitive because amplitude is supposed to be between 0 and 1. An amplitude of 1 represents the loudest sound your computer system can make without noticeable distortion. Right, so we have done the second step as well, which only leaves the final step, which is to connect this, and it's pretty simple on the surface. We simply take everything we have made and we use the output of pcam tilde as the input to the position message. So let's see what this looks like, right? The audio goes into pcam tilde, the output is a float number that goes into position $1, which controls the playback position in our jit.movie. Here we go. Not bad. There's reactivity, but it's also a bit jerky. It's kind of jerking around all the time. I mean, this is a nice glitchy aesthetic, and if you want these really jerky, snappy visuals for your video, this could absolutely work, but I think we have a bit of time to really refine this algorithm. And we're not going to do anything too complicated, but something we can do is to smooth over the values coming out of pcam tilde, right? Because these numbers are going to be really jerky, they're going to react immediately to the changes in sound, and something we can always do is to use the slide object. When there is a continuous stream of numbers, we can always use slides to smooth those values. Slide is going to expect two arguments, a slide up and slide down value. So how much to smooth the numbers as they're going up and how much to smooth the numbers as they're going down. And I think 10 for both is a nice starting point. Again, this is something you can very easily experiment with. So let's try it with the slide object. Much better. So now it's much less jerky. Beautiful. Now, something else we can do is to give some kind of gain or amplitude to our amplitude, right? We can really amp things up. And what do I mean by this? Well, the sound file that we are using, sample we are using, doesn't always go as high as possible, right? Maybe it's going between 0 and 0.5 instead of going from 0 to 1. So we can always treat this number, the number coming out of pcam tilde, before we send it to the rest of our algorithm. And we can, in fact, simply multiply this number, right, with a value that is between 0 and 1 if we want to lessen it. And we can multiply it with a number that is higher than 1 if we want to amplify the values themselves. So I'm creating an object here, asterisk or times 1 dot. The dot is incredibly important because we are dealing with float numbers here. And I'm going to use the second inlet to set the right operand, or what this number gets multiplied by, in order to change the sensitivity or gain or the amplification of my amplitude detection. So if it is 1, that's the default value. But what if I use 2? That was 2 times amplified. And the video is immediately more reactive. I can go even higher. I can go 3 times, depending on my audio file. Now even subtle sounds have a great effect. And this is going to be true for all kinds of videos that we are going to use for our Audioreactive video system. All right, so these are all the things we can do at this end of the algorithm, right? So in terms of the sound and amplitude and dealing with the amplitude, but we can pretty up the visuals a bit as well, right? And one thing I can do, and maybe you have noticed this already, I can kind of get rid of this aspect ratio thingy in my window. I don't think that's a professional term, but I did notice that there is this gray background if the video's aspect ratio does not match the aspect ratio of my window. right? And I can easily change this by going to jit.world and adding a new attribute. And this is called preserve aspect. This is by default on, so I can set this to 0, right? At preserve_aspect 0. And then I have to toggle this off and on again. And now my video is going to scale with my window, right? So the aspect ratio is reflected as the size of my window, right? But there's actually a gigantic opportunity. If you see this and if you want to do something cool and audiovisual with all of this, this little patch cord between JIT-movie and jit.world is the doorway to doing all kinds of cool visual effects that is immediately going to be audio reactive because the output of jit.movie is audio reactive. So if you have max 9, there are a bunch of objects that are jit.effects fx.something, jit.effects.something, and these are all kinds of video effects that you can apply on textures. That is what jit.movie is sending out in this instance, right? So something I can do is I can do, let's see, jit.effects.slides, right? This is not so different than our slide right here, but it's going to actually apply some slide, some blurring on the video itself, which works really well, for example, with the cloud visuals, right? So I can just plug this in here. So jit.movie goes into jit.effects slide, and that goes into jit.world. I can then right click on the inlet of jit.effects slide, choose slide down, do it again, choose slide up. Right? I can again type things like, I don't know, 15 and 15, right? So the amount of blur as the values are going up or going down. And now look at this, look at how this looks. It's a very simple blurry effect, but it has such a nice impact. Right, and we can even create all these kinds of cool video effects chains using this system. So I can go to jit.effects and I don't know, let's choose something a bit more adventurous. I am going to use JIT-FX Sobel gradient edge detector, whatever that is. So after I get the result of my JIT-FX slide, or actually before I put my jit.movies output into JIT-FX slide, I'm going to put it through JIT-FX Sobel. Well, look at this, it's already really cool. We're getting this nice gradient edge video patterns appear out of nowhere. And it's all the result of a very simple video effects chain. JIT.movie to JIT.FX Sobel to JIT-FX slide to eventually JIT.world, so we see the result of our actions. Beautiful. Looks so different. And there you have it. It's a very simple algorithm, but it has so much potential with it. You can change a lot of things about the audio. You can change a lot of the things of the data that comes out of the audio. And you can also change so many things. You can get so creative with the video aspect as well. I think an interesting idea would be to use the amplitude of the sound not only to move the video playback status or the position, but also some parameters of these effects. That way you would have a really cool system of audiovisual mapping. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you get really creative with this. And as always, thank you for watching.